It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm excited to be with you today for another episode of the podcast. As always, we're coming to you with the latest and greatest things happening in Northwest Arkansas, specifically as it pertains to everything at the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life here in the Ozarks. And today, we have a special episode with you. I'm sitting here with Charity Jones. Well, technically, I'm not sitting here with her. She is where she is. I am where I am in this age of the pandemic. We are virtual, but we're having a conversation. So Charity Jones is with Tricycle Farms. It's a local farm here that provides, I'm going to let her tell up a little bit about Tricycle Farms. We connected online, as a lot of people are connecting these days, and we have a mutual friend in Don Bennett, who I had originally talked to about possibly coming on this podcast pre-pandemic. But, you know, once COVID happened, everything hit the fan. And so without fail, I was able to finally catch up with somebody over there at Tricycle Farms, and that someone is Charity. So Charity, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Randy. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So why don't you real quickly just tell the I Am a Northwest Arkansas audience a little bit about yourself, but then tell the superhero origin story of Tricycle Farms and the impact that it has made in this area.
Okay. Well, I'm also a licensed speech language pathologist, and I've practiced in speech therapy for about 10 years. I've also taught at the U of A. I taught for the last 3 years within the Communication Sciences and Disorders Department. And then I served as a board member with Tricycle Farms. And even previously before that, I helped run the Pesto contest each year at the Pesto Fest that we have, our annual fundraiser. And then a position came open when the pandemic hit. We had lots of changes at the farm, and my speech therapy practice also suffered lots of changes with no clients. And so I took a leap of faith and became the director of finance and programs here for Tricycle. So I do all the fundraising, media, marketing. I track all of our inventory, logistics and things. And then I also help with food recovery. To tell you a little background on the farm, we're right off of Garland in the middle of Fayetteville. The farm started 9 years ago. Don Bennett is the founder. And basically, he took 2 acres of land behind his house and had the dream of a community garden. And he brought that dream to fruition. The mayor, Lionel Jordan, he's actually the one that tilled the garden the first year. So that was really neat. And an interesting fact is that we do have a no-till garden. That was the only time our garden's ever been tilled. We do permaculture for the gardens. And then about 4, maybe 5 years ago now, we started with food recovery. So what we do is we go to Whole Foods Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. We go every morning and pick up all of their waste. And that's 100% of the store. So not only the food that was going to be thrown away, but also the household commodities and the floral department. So we get lots of flower bouquets, lots of orchids and plants. And we take that food. We average about 450 pounds a day. We take that food to food pantries and meal prep programs. We serve Salvation Army Full Circle Pantry at the U of A. St. James Baptist Church Pantry in South Fayetteville, Hillcrest Towers, Fayetteville Housing Authority downtown. We also go to Genesis Church Pantry down in South Fayetteville. And then we serve Washington Plaza Pantry over here right off of Dean Solomon. And then also Life Source International downtown. So we take food to all of those pantries. And then our bulk items, we keep an eye out for bulk items and donate those to Mayday Community Kitchen. They're a meal prep program that's been delivering meals. And then every once in a while, we'll get something that we think Mr. Nate Walls over with Second Helping might be interested in. And so we take that over to Nate. Nate's a good friend of ours, and we try to help out when we can. So right now, through the pandemic, we've just been focusing on distributing food, trying to keep these food pantries full. Usually we have about 1,500, 2,000 volunteers a year. MLK Day is usually a big day with 200 or 300 people coming to the farm and helping prepare for spring and raking leaves or pine needles or whatever it's needed. And we haven't had that opportunity this year. We've really cut back on our volunteers. So our gardens are going to take a break probably this year. We might do some herbs, but we're really still not ready to have, hundreds of people come to the farm. So we're going to continue to focus on food distribution and helping all these pantries.
Yeah. So, would it be an understatement to say that you guys were overwhelmed with the requests for your services during this pandemic?
That would not be an understatement. Quite frequently people will reach out as individuals. And sometimes we do get to help those community members individually, but we've really tried to focus on, the bigger impact picture and keep these food pantries full and send community members there. But in the future, we would like to have an on-site pantry that we could, impact more individuals themselves.
Is there the space for it at the farm?
We're going to have to acquire the funds to renovate the garage.
Okay.
So we hope to make the garage kind of a walk-up storefront, where you could walk in, do a little pantry shopping, maybe grab a flower bouquet, things like that.
Yeah. I would. Yeah, that sounds really cool. So, obviously, because everything has changed with the pandemic and you can't bring in the people to help, how are you kind of stewarding volunteers right now? And when people are reaching out to you virtually to say, hey, we want to help out, we want to figure out a way to give back in this time of need. What are you telling people to do?
Well, I've been telling them to continue to watch our social media from when we do have a few volunteer positions open. And to mainly just help spread the word that we need, financial support. Even sharing our posts on social media is a big help just to get the awareness out there. Even though we've been established for 9 years and been doing food recovery for almost 5, it's amazing how many Fayetteville residents have still never heard of Tricycle Farms. Yeah. I feel like we're everywhere, but I meet people all the time. Yeah, I still meet people all the time that have never heard of it. Or they'll say, I've heard of that, but I have no idea, what they do. Yeah. And so just helping spread the word really helps. Word of mouth is very powerful. I'm sure you know. And then we do have a few little volunteer positions that are still running. We have about 20 chicks. We call them the city chicks, 20 hens. And so we have chicken tenders that come out and help. They let out the chickens in the morning and feed them in the evening and put them back up. So we have some little things, but not any mass groups, Yeah.
Was this Don's original dream to do this? Just to, because I know there's been a lot of talk lately about, people being more self-sustainable. And, you have, when you go back to your World War II and the Victory Garden, right? And that's there's been a talk, like I know this past summer, a lot of people created Victory Gardens in their own homes. And they said, man, well, we don't know when this pandemic's going to end. We need to be as self-sufficient as possible. What was really the genesis behind Tricycle and behind Don's effort to do that? Besides the fact that he just had this available land behind his house.
Well, he was really moved by the statistics of hunger in our community just right here in Fayetteville. I think it's within a 4-mile radius. Now, I hate to quote the statistics because I don't have them right here in front of me, but it was an astronomical number of how many people were food insecure within 4 miles of the farm. And a lot of those numbers, included children.
Yeah.
And so that was very moving for Dawn. And then to talk a little bit about the sustainability portion of your question, we have started, we've had the groundbreaking for our hydroponic house. Mm. It should be one of the most energy sufficient projects or greenhouses in the world. When you have the best thing in the world, it usually only lasts a day before somebody beats you. So
right.
I'm a little hesitant to say that, but
records are meant to be broken.
That's right. That's right. And that has what's called a GAHT system, GAHT, and it's an underground aromatic system to where the pipes all run underground, the inline fans move all the air, and it should change the air in the hydro house by about 20 to 25 degrees. So we're hoping, to only supplement the heat and air just a little bit. And then we can grow herbs year round and sell them. And so we're hoping to become more sustainable through on-site sales.
Okay.
And so we're going to focus on high-end herbs. You can't really get cilantro and things like that in the winter. And so hopefully we'll be able to sell local herbs throughout the winter, and that will be in high demand is what we're hoping. So that's going to help with our sustainability. But yeah, Don saw the vision, of teaching people how to farm. I think he really, was inspired by the educational aspect of it all, teaching people how to grow their own food. We do grow food and give it away, but that's not sustainable for our populations that are food insecure. It's like you said, the Victory Gardens, that's the best way to do it, is to teach people how to grow their own food.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We say this word, and I've used it a lot, but could you define, in your ability, define what food insecurity is? Because we hear it bannered about quite a bit. And a lot of people, they wonder, well, what does that truly mean? Is that empty cupboards? What does, if your definition from as Tricycle Farm sees it, what is food insecurity?
Well, it's more about not knowing where your next meal will come from. Okay. Even if you've got the meal on the table, if you're a mother with 3 kids and you don't know where breakfast is going to come from, that's food insecure. Or even just being okay this week, but not knowing what you're going to do next week. A lot of us live week by week, and there's a lot of stress involved in not knowing how you're going to feed your family in the following days, even if you have meals on the table right then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really tough. And I know you mentioned a buddy of mine, Nate, earlier from Secondhand Smoke and Second Helping NWA. And Nate's an amazing guy. And I think what you guys have done to support his efforts. And he just, I was just talking to him last night, and he just said, I just saw a need out there and I wanted to fill it. And there is a huge need. I've gone out with him to pass out meals, and there's just something redeeming and just that makes you feel good when you walk up to a housing development and you can hand out 5. You walk to a door, and I knocked on one door. This was like right around Christmas, and I think we had like 300 meals with us. But I knocked on the door and I was like, "How many meals do you want?" And one house said, "I want 2." The other said, "I want 7." And the fact that we had them and we were able to give them, and it just it brought home to me, because I'm not food insecure. That's not my struggle, but I realize that so many people, even people that you may not think are food insecure, are. Right. And I think that's the real issue here, is that a lot of times we think that food insecurity looks a certain way, but right. Food insecurity can be somebody walking around that looks like they have it all together, but they don't, and they're struggling at home when it comes to food and food items. And, there's that stigma of, I'm embarrassed to even open my mouth and say to someone, hey, I'm struggling in this area, mm-hmm. Because we are always looking for that person on the corner with the cardboard sign, but it doesn't always look like that.
No, it doesn't. I sent out a survey, back after Thanksgiving, I think, and to the pantry partners, and that was exactly what they indicated. Is not only have their numbers went up, but they're, the individuals they're serving, it's a whole different clientele that they've never seen before.
Yeah.
And that's what's great about our food recovery program specifically, is that we can take fresh produce. Well, I say fresh. It's almost expired, but it's still edible. Some of it you can't even tell why they got rid of it.
There's so much waste anyway. I mean,
and sometimes they're just needing to change out a display. The stuff is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Or maybe the box was damaged and they're going to get rid of the whole thing. So anyway, that's the difference between us, is that we can take things from Whole Foods. We take the ready-made meals, the SNAP meals that I eat all the time. I mean, they're great. You just pop them in the microwave. But it's different than canned goods and boxed macaroni. And, those sustainable foods, like a can of tuna, that's great if you don't have a kitchen to cook in.
Right.
That's very useful.
Yeah.
But if you're able to cook a full meal at home for your whole family, you want more than just canned food and boxed macaroni. And so it's nice that we can offer some foods for these pantries that are different than, what they're usually seeing.
Yeah.
And we've heard, and I know that we've heard from Full Circle that they have a whole different, well, I shouldn't say a whole different, but they see a different clientele on our food recovery days when we're dropping off, because, people want good food. They don't want to just eat canned food, and they don't want to just eat stuff to take the hunger away. They want to eat something good like the rest of us do,
Yeah. When I volunteered at St. James Missionary Baptist Church, because they have an amazing food pantry, and we'll make sure that we put a link on the show notes for all of the different food pantries and link directly to your website, because I'm sure you update that on a regular basis as people make things available, so that people know where to go to find this, find these options. But I was blown away at all the food that was donated. I mean, some of it came from Walmart, some came from Sam's, some came from you guys. And I remember that's where I met Don physically at St. James when I was doing something. Big shout out to the Downtown Fayetteville Rotary for volunteering time, which they still do on a fairly regular basis. But and that's something that people can do to help out. You can go to one of these food pantries and socially distant volunteer your time and efforts to, make sure that when the food comes in, when the items come in, that they can be redistributed as quickly as possible. Because like you said, some things have a very short shelf life, and you want to get them into the hands of the end user, or in this case, the end eater, as quickly as possible.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We ask that all of our pantries try to distribute the food that we donate within 24 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
So that any shelf life that's left is hopefully in the home and not sitting in the pantry.
Right. Yeah.
But St. James, sorry.
No, go ahead.
St. James is doing some amazing work. Did you volunteer at their new location, or where they've relocated the pantry, or was it over here by Leverett?
It was wherever the church is, so behind the church. Have they relocated it since then? This was probably like June and July was the last time I did the pantry with them. But they've been since then. I don't know that they've moved, or maybe they have.
Well, they were originally at their church on North and Leverett.
Yes, that's where we were.
That's where you were?
Yeah.
No, they've moved down. They had an old church location that wasn't in use, and it is over by Willow Heights. It's across from Willow Heights in South Fayetteville.
Okay.
Yeah. So their pantry is now over there, and it's much bigger. It's huge.
Oh, good.
And then they have a community center. Well, it was the congregational room upstairs that was, quite large. And they've turned that into kind of a community room. Mm-hmm. We donated, Whole Foods doesn't have their bar area anymore for people to sit. And so Whole Foods donated all of that furniture to us, and, we don't need it. And so we took it all to St. James, and they've turned that into a warming center for Salvation Army.
Oh, okay.
So when it's really cold, if you don't have anywhere to go, then you can go hang out at St. James at that warming center, because I believe Salvation Army only opens at night.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's huge to have. So definitely recommend people to do that, because it is at the time of recording this, it is a little cold in the late afternoon, early evening. And so, anything to take a little bit of that chill off. Although, as I say, somebody coming from Boston to live here 6 years ago, the cold here is different than the cold in Boston. So, it's all relative, but regardless, cold is cold. And certainly we want to encourage people to make available to themselves or to others that they know may be struggling, these types of locations where they can find respite and, kind of pull things together. So.
Yeah. And Monique, she's just a powerhouse.
She is. She really is.
She's joined the Fayetteville Housing Authority Board recently.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's really
what's Monique's last name?
I believe it's Jones.
It is Jones. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. Monique is great. She I brought my sons with me to volunteer, and she put them right to work. And when every time they came in, they were like, "We got to go see Miss Monique and find out what we have to do." So, and I would encourage anyone that has an opportunity, reach out to St. James Missionary Baptist Church to volunteer for the food pantry. And they may not need you every day, but when they do need you, when those trucks come in, you got to stock and put that stuff away and then get boxes ready for people to come. And then they start driving up. And again, that's rewarding too, just seeing the boxes of food going into people's trunks and just knowing that, you played a part in helping to help people that need help right now. So.
Yeah, it's very rewarding work. And I know that St. James is distributing food boxes on Tuesdays right now. I don't know if they have.
Yeah, that was
one day a week, but I know that they do it on Tuesdays.
Yeah, and they do a lot. I mean, they reach more than 200 plus families every Tuesday, which I think is huge. So I think every little bit helps. So tell me, because it's really not a competition. If somebody's listening to this in Springdale or in Rogers or in Bentonville, are there sister organizations akin to Tricycle that are doing what you guys are doing in those cities?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not exactly food recovery.
Sure.
Whole Foods, they encourage a food recovery program at every one of their stores.
Okay.
And so we were lucky enough. Actually, it's a pretty interesting story. They came out when that store, I don't even think the store was open yet, but they were just trying to get to know the area and be a part of the community. And so the store managers came out to the farm and volunteered in the gardens.
Okay.
And then through garden work, talking out playing in the dirt with Dawn, they were telling him about this food recovery program, and that at their stores, the biggest problem is consistency, that they'll have, all kinds of organizations come in. There's a different contact name and number for every organization. They show up at different times. And that it's great. It was a great program that they had started, but the logistics were awful, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's how it all started. Don said, we can be consistent. If you just want to do one person, one contact, we can be there, same time every day. And so we've heard from other stores that this is, one of the best programs that they've been associated with, that it's really worked out well to just have one partner. And Rogers and Bentonville, they don't have a Whole Foods. Yeah. So I don't know if another organization is, working with a different grocer. Now, we've reached out to a couple other grocers because every one of our pantries has so much need that we really wouldn't mind to add another grocer and expand our food recovery program. So we're in talks to do that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, there's obviously other local grocery stores like Ozark Natural Foods, Natural Grocers, Harps. We have a couple of other options. And then, of course, there's this little company called Walmart. Yeah.
Now, Walmart does donate a lot to the Arkansas Food Day. Yeah. So they do.
Yeah.
But, it's you'd think that as much time as we've been doing this, that companies would be more aware, but calling around and asking questions, there's still a lot of hesitation on the corporate legal level at giving away, food that's almost expired but still edible. And you really have to educate them that there's the Good Samaritan Act that covers them legally, that once they donate, that relieves them of all liability. And so
You mean because we're such a litigious society that
Yeah.
people are worried about getting sued?
Yeah, that they'd rather throw away good food than
Right.
deal with the legalities. So
Yeah.
once you can get past those barriers, the conversation's a lot easier. So I've been putting it out there with the legal jargon that it's okay.
Yeah, it is okay. I mean, you would think that it would be common sense. I know in Europe they don't have those issues, and they have very strict Good Samaritan laws in place so that people can. When I lived over in Germany, I remember the baker, they would give everything away either at the end of the day or like the next morning. All the old stuff would be given away, and it was just a common thing. Nobody was sitting around saying, "Oh, if I get sick off this croissant, I'm going to sue you." Just a different thing. And I realized croissants come from France. I was just making an example. So please,
I was going to call you out.
Yeah, nobody sent me any messages about that. So anyway, but yeah, no, I mean I think that's. I think what you guys are doing is important, and I'm glad that we're having kind of a chance to share your story. Is there anything else that you think is important to know right now? Because sometime down the road, when we get back to some normalcy, I want to come do an episode at the farm and kind of go through all the cool things that you're doing. Because I got some feedback the other day. I actually did a behind the scenes tour of the new public library extension, and it was just phenomenal. And just I really enjoyed the walking and talking piece of it. So I'd love to kind of like walk with you and Don through the farm. And I know it's not that big, but just to kind of talk about the sights and the sounds and capture it from that perspective. So we'll have to come back and do a part 2. But is there anything that you would want the listening audience of I Am Northwest Arkansas to know about Tricycle Farms that would be important now and later?
Well, I guess the most important thing is that we just need support.
Yeah.
We usually have Pesto Fest, and that's our largest.
How much do you normally raise with Pesto Fest?
About $25,000-$30,000.
Okay.
So we've definitely missed out on that this year.
Yeah.
And to just keep, really what I would like to say to everyone is figure out how to get involved with your community, even if it's not here. Like you said, it just makes you feel good to help others. And there's so many opportunities and so many people needing help, helping Nate or Mayday Community Kitchen, any of the partners really, or here at Tricycle, but just to encourage everyone to really get involved.
Yeah, no,
There's
I think that's it. Yeah, so I'm going to really impress upon my listeners of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Please, if you see any posts from Tricycle Farms, please share them far and wide. If you see calls for support or they're raising money for something, this is good soil. I always talk about, there's good soil and there's bad soil. This is good soil to sow into. So I really want to encourage you to, and if you're in a position to put your money where your mouth is and help out organizations like Tricycle that are really, carrying the yeoman's task in our community to make sure that people go, you don't struggle with lack. And so I really want to encourage that and encourage everyone that's listening to this to both share this episode and encourage others to be a part of what Tricycle is doing. So.
Well, thank you, Randy. And one more little plug. If anyone's interested in doing a food drive, we did a food drive with KUAF throughout the month of December and picked up almost a ton of food, 1 ton.
Oh. Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So and we've done another one with the new school here in Fayetteville, and then we did one with a preschool in Bentonville. And we've kind of become a distribution company. We pick up and we deliver. So if anybody wants to do a food drive at their business or organization, we don't mind pick it up and deliver it to the pantries that we're already going to. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, that's a good one. Maybe I was going to think, but I don't have a physical location right now. So, but we're working on that. Anybody listening to this has an office space with a setup for a small studio, let us know, because I Am Northwest Arkansas is looking to expand. And if we do that, we would love to do a food drive, because of course my wife would kill me if I store anything at my house. So that goes without saying. But man, I can't thank you enough for sharing and giving us a little glimpse behind the curtain at Tricycle Farms. And I just want to wish you and Don nothing but continued success. And we really appreciate what you're doing, because you are making a difference. And I know some days when you get up and you look out and you're like, man, I'd rather just get back under the covers. We appreciate the fact that you're getting up and doing this every day, that wash, rinse, repeat mindset. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Well, we enjoy doing it. No problem. But yes, the cold and snowy days, it is hard to get out there and load that trailer. But
right.
we do it.
Awesome. Well, like I said, if there's anything I can do for you guys, please let me know. We'll continue to press your information out there and share it with the world. And thank you so much, Charity, for coming on the podcast and for just sharing the story of Tricycle Farms.
Well, thank you so much for giving me a platform and inviting me to come on the show.
Absolutely. We will do a part 2 coming soon. Just stay tuned. Well, folks, there you have it. Another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I hope you guys liked that. I really enjoyed just sitting down with Charity and learning more about Tricycle Farms. And I've kind of worked with them in the past. And so I think this is a great organization. If you can support them in any way, shape, or form, whether it's donating something, donating your time when it's possible, donating money, obviously, if you can do that, or anything else that can help this organization continue to grow, please feel free to do that. And real quickly, I didn't get that, but what is the website?
www.tricyclefarms.org.
Right. And all of that will be in the show notes, as well as information about the sponsors for this podcast. And we really appreciate you guys. Remember, our podcast comes out every Monday, so you can you can listen to the podcast and learn something new about Northwest Arkansas. If you're not from here and you're moving here, you definitely should listen to and subscribe to the podcast, because you'll gain insight that you won't get from any other book or anything else about what makes this area great. And remember, you can sign up for us wherever you get your podcasts and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. That's all I have for you guys this week. I will see you soon. Peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.